Right now, somewhere on Earth, an animal is hunting another animal. Claws, teeth, venom, speed. It's been happening for so long that we assume it's just how life works. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time, a long, boring, terrifying, in its own way time, when nothing on Earth hunted anything else. Every living thing just floated, absorbed sunlight, or soaked up chemicals from the water. No chasing, no biting, no running for your life. Then something changed. Something became the first hunter. The first thing to look at another living creature and think in whatever primitive way a creature can think, that's food. And today we're going to find out what that thing was. Fair warning, the answer is weirder and honestly funnier than you'd expect. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll never look at a Cheerio the same way again. Yeah, you heard that right. Let's get into it. For nearly 3 billion years, Earth's oceans were basically a giant peaceful soup. Bacteria, algae, single-celled organisms drifting around, minding their own business. It was less Discovery Channel and more watching paint dry. Except the paint was alive and mostly harmless. Nobody was eating anybody. Not because everyone was being polite, they just hadn't figured out how yet. Then, around 560 million years ago, life got a little more complicated. Multicellular organisms showed up, sponges, jellyfish-like blobs, strange flat creatures that looked like they were designed by someone who'd only ever heard a rough description of an animal. Still no predators. Everyone's still just filtering water or soaking up nutrients like Earth's most laid-back roommates. So when did the peace break? Let's talk about a creature with one of the greatest names in the history of biology, Cloudina. Cloudina lived around 550 million years ago. It looked like a tiny stack of ice cream cones made of calcium. Think a little tube or a party hat for a very, very small party. For a long time, scientists just thought Cloudina was some harmless tube-dwelling creature, filtering food from the water like everything else. Boring, peaceful, a model citizen of the Precambrian. Then paleontologists started finding something odd. Cloudina fossils, thousands of them, with small, round holes drilled into their shells. Neat little holes, all about the same size, like something had been using them for target practice. Someone, or something, had figured out how to drill into another living creature and get to the squishy part inside. That, right there, might be the first known act of predation on Earth, the oldest crime scene in the fossil record. But here's the twist, and this is where it gets good. We don't actually know what did it. The killer left behind the wound, but not a signed confession. No skeleton next to the crime scene going, "Yep, it was me." Whatever drilled into Cloudina was probably soft-bodied, which means it barely fossilizes at all. It's the ultimate cold case, 550 million years old and still unsolved. So Cloudina might be the first known victim of a predator, but the predator itself? Still out there, nameless in the fossil record equivalent of a wanted poster with no face on it. All right, so if we can't identify the killer, let's talk about the next best thing. The first predator we can actually name and picture. And for that, we go to one of the strangest creatures to ever exist. A creature that looks like it was designed by a committee that couldn't agree on anything. Meet Anomalocaris. Anomalocaris lived around 508 million years ago during the Cambrian explosion. Basically, evolution's biggest glow-up event when life suddenly went from simple blobs to, wait, that's allowed? In a geological blink of an eye. Anomalocaris means abnormal shrimp, which is honestly a little harsh because this thing was not a shrimp. It was up to a meter long, massive for its time, like a great white shark showing up at a goldfish convention. It had giant bulging eyes on stalks, a body lined with rippling fins like a frilly skirt, and two long spiky grasping claws at the front of its face that it used to grab prey and shove it into its mouth. And that mouth. Let's talk about that mouth. It was round, plated, and lined with sharp interlocking segments like a pineapple ring designed by a horror movie prop department. It sat underneath the head like a strange little pizza cutter of doom. Scientists used to think Anomalocaris was crunching through the armored trilobites of the time, basically the hard candy shell creatures of the ocean. But here's a fun twist. When they actually studied the bite mouth closely, they found it probably wasn't strong enough to crack through solid trilobite armor. So this apex predator, king of the Cambrian seas, might have actually been eating the soft, squishy, defenseless creatures instead. Kind of like a great white shark whose secret shame is that it can only eat pudding. Still terrifying, though, if you were a small, soft creature in 508 million BC with nowhere to hide and Anomalocaris cruising toward you like an underwater blimp with murder claws. Now here's where things get ridiculous. Remember how I said you'd never look at a Cheerio the same way? Anomalocaris' mouth, that ring of overlapping plates, is eerily similar in shape to something you've definitely seen before, a certain circular breakfast cereal. Scientists have literally compared its bite structure to a cereal ring shape when explaining it to the public, because honestly, it's the easiest comparison in the world. Nature's first apex predator had a face built like a snack. Let that sink in. Somewhere out there, 500 million years before humans existed, before dinosaurs, before trees, before literally anything walked on land, the scariest thing in the entire ocean had a mouth shaped like something you'd pour milk over. Evolution has a sense of humor. It just took us 500 million years to notice. So why does this even matter? Why should you care what ate what 500 million years ago? Because this, right here, is the moment everything changed. The instant something evolved the ability to actively hunt another living creature. It triggered a chain reaction. Prey animals had to evolve defenses, shells, spines, the ability to burrow, the ability to run, which meant predators had to evolve better ways to catch them, which meant prey had to get even better at not being caught. This is the beginning of what scientists call an evolutionary arms race, and it never really stopped. It's still happening right now between a lion and a gazelle, between a fox and a rabbit, between a cat and literally anything smaller than it that moves. Every claw, every set of teeth, every camouflage pattern, every venom gland that has ever existed on this planet, all of it traces back to this one moment. A soft-bodied something drilling a hole into a tiny ice cream cone creature named Cloudina. Or a giant, abnormal shrimp with a cereal ring mouth deciding that other soft little creatures looked delicious. That was the spark. That was the moment Earth stopped being peaceful and started being alive in the fullest, messiest, most dramatic sense of the word. So what was the first predator to ever exist? The honest answer is, we don't know its name. It's the mystery killer that left holes in Cloudina's shell 550 million years ago and vanished from the fossil record without a trace. But the first predator we can actually picture, name, and put a face to, face being generous since it looked like a cereal mouth nightmare blimp, is Anomalocaris. And in a strange way, that's kind of beautiful. Life on Earth spent billions of years being calm, quiet, and predator-free. And then, one day, something got hungry in a whole new way, and nothing has been quiet since. So next time you're pouring a bowl of cereal, take a second. Somewhere, 500 million years ago, something that looked exactly like that was the most terrifying thing in the entire ocean. If you enjoyed this dive into the very first hunter on Earth, stick around because next time we're going even further back to the very first time anything on this planet dared to move at all.